Hello there and welcome to the Brain Body Project. In today's episode, I am joined by my mentor, Dij. Welcome, Dij.
Hello, guys.
I couldn't think of a more perfect person to be sitting here kicking off this series and this campaign in the lead up to the London Marathon. Firstly, because I wouldn't even be considering doing this if it wasn't for you. And secondly, because Dij is the most disciplined person that I know. And so that is exactly what she is here to talk about today. Everything that Dij is going to speak about today is what has contributed to me getting here in the first place. There are going to be plenty of takeaways for everyone listening. And at the end, you are even going to get an insight into how Dij coaches me and how she has coached me to be where I am.
I'm looking forward to it.
Hello. So, in case you live under a rock and you have missed my big news, I am running a marathon. Yes, me, the girl who has claimed for 28 years that I don't do cardio. I'm running a marathon. Not only am I running a marathon, I am running the London Marathon, and I'm running it on behalf of Brain Research UK. Obviously, this is a cause that is very close to my heart, and I need your help. My team and I have some really big plans for this campaign to get as much funding and awareness for brain research as possible. So I am looking for aligned sponsors to come along on the journey. There are a range of sponsorship packages available to suit every brand and business. So if you are interested in coming on board and partnering with me for the London Marathon, I would love to hear from you. Welcome, Dij.
Hi.
I'm so happy to have you here. Thank you for being here.
I'm happy to be here.
For those of the listeners who don't know who you are, tell me, who are you? And more importantly, why should people listen to what you have to say?
This was such an interesting question. I'm going to take it deep straight away. When I was reading the brief, I was like, what do I say here? Because there's so much to say, but there's also like you've just got to spit it out. So I'm your mentor. That's number one. And why should they listen to me? I've been in the coaching industry. I've been a coach for over 7 years now, which is fucking wild when I think about it. I wrote some notes down, but I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. I'm the firstborn Australian in my family, which is crazy to think. I'm the only person in my family born in Australia, which I feels like it's something to note. That's that's why you should listen to me. I became a millionaire before I was 25, which was a massive goal of mine. And yeah, I've been in the industry for 7 years. I've got a lot of experience. I've had some of the most incredible mentors. I've been mentored by incredible humans, and I've been blessed enough to be able to pass their wisdom on and through either my own experience and stuff like that. And also I have such a colourful personal story, which I'm not going to get into because it's not that important for everyone to know. But, you know, when a lot of people hear my story and my journey, they think, wow, like that's actually wild. So I think that's why you should listen to me. Not that I'm going to tell you my story, but I have a pretty wild story. So I think that's, something to note as well. So yeah.
And I have heard that story and definitely agree that is why people should listen to you.
Yeah. And I think I'll tell it one day on like more of a public setting. But yeah, right now it's probably not. Yeah, it's not to share.
Yeah, and it's not necessary.
Yeah.
It's not like we can see your power without you needing to share that.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So I wanted to get you on because, like you already mentioned, you are my mentor. And first and foremost, I actually don't think I would be doing this run if it wasn't for you and what I've learned from you. But I wanted to talk specifically about discipline, something that I know is just your bread and butter and something that I have learnt from you so significantly, especially in the last couple of months. What does discipline mean to you?
Discipline means freedom and self-respect. And I think that's something that I really came into figuring out potentially last year when I started to really think about what actually has contributed to my journey. And I kept saying it was like because I'm disciplined and all these different things and because I'm productive. And when I really got to the root of it, discipline gave me the self-respect that I never had. And that I maybe outsourced or attempted to outsource onto other things. And when I think about what discipline has given me, it's respect for myself, which in turn has allowed a lot of other people to respect me as well, because obviously the most basic thing is how you treat yourself is how others will treat you. And when it comes down to it, I think discipline, it's such a broad thing, and I think it's very misunderstood. I think discipline gets the viewpoint of it's just it's all the David Goggins shit, which I'm all for. I'm David Goggins' biggest fucking fan.
You really
might
are.
I add. I've got VIP tickets. I can't wait to look him in the eye. But it's actually much deeper than that. It's self-respect, and it's really about, and I know that we've had these conversations in private before, but discipline at core is respect for yourself. Saying doing what you said you were going to do. Doing it when it gets even hard, doing it when you don't want to do it. And when I think about respect, I think about if someone I respected was in the room, would I do it? Yes, absolutely. There's no doubt. If David Goggins was sitting in the room, would I do something that, would I be yawning? Would I be scrolling? Would I be doing? No. Okay, cool. So do it as if David Goggins is watching. And he's a really random example, but, and I was able to cultivate through discipline the respect I have for other people, for myself, which a lot of people never actually get to, which is wild when you really think about it. So yeah, that's what it means to me. It means self-respect. And I think that we've overly normalized the self-love movement, and we've fucking forgotten about self-respect, and we mask a lot of really bad patterns and behaviors with self-love. And, when you think about it on a deeper level, if, you and I were boyfriend and girlfriend or whatever, we were in a partnership, I would, and I loved you, but I'd let myself get away with stuff because that's what love is. But if you were, someone I highly respected, which I do as my client, it's like, would I let myself get away with things? No, I wouldn't. Okay, cool. That's the difference. And I think discipline really gave me that of be who you would in front of the people that you value the most, so you can start to fucking value who you are.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's the biggest thing that I've taken from so many conversations we've had in the last few months is it's not about love, it's about respect. And that goes in so many areas of life, I think that discipline being the highest form of self-respect is such an important thing to know and to value because that just completely changes the game, totally changes the game.
Yeah. Yeah, and my mentor and even my dad and my mentor and even my partner, it's I would never do things around them. So just don't do them.
Yeah. I love that you said the other day when you were your mum called you out about something. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah. I see you watching my stuff, but, cut it. And she was, what did she say? I said something to her and she's like, is that what you preach to your clients? And I was like, no. So I'm going to walk out, calm myself down and then have this conversation with you. But I think when we see this self-love movement, unfortunately it's been skewed into a lot of just love yourself as you are and, don't try and be something that you're not and la, la, la. And it's it makes me kind of sad. And when I think about respect, I think it's because it's a different energy in your body when you respect someone, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It's I don't know, it's this tingly somatic feeling in your body. But then when you love someone, it's different. And for me, I think when you start really dissecting how important it is to respect yourself and what that can then do for you in so many avenues of your life, it's why wouldn't you do it? Yeah, absolutely.
So you talked about, this being your journey and it was a journey to respecting yourself, this discipline journey. Tell me what has been your journey with discipline?
Think about any vice that you can pick to attempt to feel self-love or valued or
Dopamine hit.
yeah, some form of dopamine. I tried it. You know, I tried it all and nothing worked, obviously. But yeah, when I really peel it back, binge eating, binge spending, binge partying, being addicted to how I looked, like all of these different things, because I was attempting to feel valued. Like I was trying to respect myself to some degree, and I thought it was something external to me. I thought it was the way that I looked. I thought it was what I had on. I thought if I looked a certain way, then people would respect me, which is why I was so addicted to spending my money, like all these different things. And, you know, when I think about my own journey, I've done it all, you know, and I was also super fucking lazy, which is why I was the binge spender and the binge eater and all the different things. Yeah, to overcompensate. So I remember doing my first little bit of shadow work, and this would have been maybe like five years ago. And my mentor asked me, what triggers you in your partner? And at this time, I'm pretty sure Jesse and I, we were dating because we've been together for our 6th year this year, I think. And I was like, he's lazy. And then when she said like, and where are you? I was like, my ego was hurt so much because I am in a family of obviously people, immigrants, right? Most hardest workers. And I thought I was so hardworking, but when I really looked at, okay, cool, where am I actually really fucking lazy? I was like, it's everywhere. It was, I loved it. I loved to present myself as someone who was hardworking. And when people were watching, I was hardworking, but when people weren't watching, I wasn't hardworking, which is the respect piece, right? Because I had to build that when no one's around, you still behave the same. And I remember just like little things, like if my mum came home and I was maybe like on the lounge, I'd like get up a little bit and she'd be like, oh, you're working? I'm like, yeah. And I'm not working, you know. And this was like 5 years ago. And I think discipline and building self-respect made me be someone that when no one was watching, I actually like who I fucking am, not the other way around. You know, when everyone's watching, I like who I am, versus when no one's watching, when I'm training by myself, when I'm going for the runs, when I'm working, when I'm doing whatever, I like who I am behind the scenes, which in turn gave me the confidence that I was always looking for. Instead of on the scenes, I was someone that I like to present myself as hardworking and disciplined and all the different things. But as soon as everyone turned their back on me, it's kind of like when you're a kid, I don't know, anyone who played a lot of sports, we used to do this thing where we used to do the plank all the time, kind of like what we did at the retreat. And when the coach turns their back, you drop. And then when the coach goes like, he turns around, you get back up and you're like, I never moved. I was here the whole time. And it's kind of like you build such a bad habit of doing that around in real life, you know, when your clients are watching. Or at the time I was a personal trainer and I was working really hard, but it was the moment that I got home and no one was watching, I was binge eating, I was scrolling, I was shopping. You know, I had so many packages come into the gym of just like spending my money, all these different things. So I think discipline closed that gap. It was like who I am behind the scenes is much better than who I am on the scenes, which is what the reflection that I get from a lot of clients from retreats is, oh, you're exactly the same and you've just spent 3-4 days with me, or you're actually better in real life, which is the biggest compliment because I was once that person who behind the scenes I was not the same person. So yeah, that's what it did for me. It changed everything.
It's so interesting here you and obviously I've heard you speak about that before, especially on the retreat. And I think for me the biggest takeaway from the retreat was that's me. That was, I saw so much of myself doing that. And it was in the moments where, you know, like you said, you know, do it as if David Goggins is watching. Mine is do it as if Didge is watching. Like that's my life. So I'm like, you know, at the retreat, I'm like, fuck yeah, let's keep up and do the big stuff and all the things. And then, you know, on that last day, on the last morning, the last exercise, when we were just, it wasn't the hype up of everyone. It wasn't the adrenaline. There was no noise. There was no talking. It was just me and my headspace. was so loud. Like the doubt in myself, the excuses, she's turned over there, you can quickly drop and have a break. Like that's where I saw within myself, like, fuck, like you are not actually, and you know, it was similar. It was like, oh yeah, I'm working hard. I'm doing the thing. Like I've got heaps going on. I'm booked and busy, baby. But the minute where I'm given the opportunity to tap out or doubt myself or, you know, come up with some kind of excuse as to why I didn't perform or to not perform,
you take it.
I was taking it.
Yeah, it's something that I like to call with my girls, and you would have heard me speak about it in the discipline era, superficial level of commitment.
Yeah.
Is you like to present yourself as someone who's super committed, and when asked about it or potentially when you're in conversation, you present yourself as someone who's super committed. But if I was to strip all that back and be like, no, but are you actually fucking committed to your goals? 98% of people would be like, no, I'm not. Because, you know, at the retreat when you guys were doing that thing, it's those who were committed to the task completed the task. Those who weren't fucked around and their head noise got the better of them. And it's so interesting because here's the thing. It's like I genuinely believe if you just allowed yourself to see how uncommitted you really are to your goals, nothing's going to happen at the end of the day. Like, yeah, you might shed a fucking tear because it feels icky, but it is what it is at the end of the day, you know? And that's the thing where I love to have this like just cop it on the fucking chin mentality. Just take it. Who cares? Like it doesn't mean anything personally. You're not committed to your goals. Isn't that a good thing that you just saw that? You know? And I think at the retreat, it's a really good example. And for myself, I've trained alone for the last 5 years by myself in my garage, where I almost feel like I've normalized being alone in training, that when I'm with people, it's like, oh, this is weird, you know, and I have to kind of adjust. But it kind of is those moments when no one's watching, no one's cheering you on, no one's around. What do you then do? Because that's you. Whether you want to believe it or not, it's not you're tired today and, oh, today's a one-off. I'm sorry, but everyone's fucking tired. Everyone's got a busy life. Everyone's, you know, fatigued. And it's so funny at the retreat. I remember one person saying, oh, you know, like we're all tired and that's why we're all reactive. And I was like, I'm going to nip that in the butt and say no, because this is how you feel now is how you feel every day. And in that exercise where, you know, it started to get uncomfortable and immediately how quick did you grab onto how unique you were in your problem? All the girls were like, my hands hurt. I'm like, everyone's hands hurt. My knees hurt. Everyone's knees hurt, you know?
I still have scars on my knees, by the way.
I'll add that to the waiver.
Yeah. You will have scar tissue on your knees for months.
Yeah, and it's like we do that exercise where it's dead silent, it's very early in the morning, and no one's actually allowed to speak. And notice what happens in your head. That's where your levels of confidence are at. And then let's go deeper than that. Why are your levels of confidence like that? Who are you outside of this retreat? How do you behave? What do you do? Do you skip out and shit? Because confidence is competence. And if you lack the competence, you will lack the confidence. So if you do those exercises and immediately you have head noise, it tells me outside of here, there's some shit that you probably need to clean up for you to actually build the skill of confidence. And I believe that no one's born with confidence. I definitely wasn't born with confidence. What built my confidence was being competent, being who I say I am. And that's it, you know? And I think that this is why I also believe that your body is your resume. And I say that in a way of like, in so many different areas. So in that retreat, in that exercise, what your body was doing, your head noise, how strong you are, it tells me the truth. It tells me who you are outside of this retreat, and that's all I need to know.
Yeah. And I think that, you know, it's so cool to have an experience like the retreat and something where you're forced to actually see what your capacity is, because that's what it was for me. It was like, okay, cool. This is who you are. You're being shown how you behave and the head noise that you have and everything that you use as an excuse. If you weren't on this retreat, you would have tapped out and fucked off, right? But like I was there and I saw it, but then I pushed and I saw my capacity. And I saw what I was actually capable of and how fucking small I'd been playing because I'd let those excuses win behind the scenes when no one was watching. And I think that has been like my training since the retreat off its tits. Like I've never trained like I train now. And that is because I have seen my capacity. And I've also seen prior to the retreat how I would go to the gym and fucking call it a day when I felt mildly fatigued. And I was like, cool, yeah, ticked the gym session off the list. I'm good, you know. Something that I did this yesterday actually, was I had been feeling quite dysregulated for a few days before. I did a 12K run yesterday, my longest one yet in my program. And I was feeling very anxious in the lead up. And so I actually clocked all of my excuses. I wrote down everything from Friday night. I'm not going to get a good enough sleep. I'm going to bed too late. I haven't had enough carbs today. I'm 2 days out from my period. Like I've had a shit week of sleep, everything that came up. And then I ran the 12K. And then I look back at those excuses and go, okay, cool. Next time you want to go for a run and those excuses come up, you've just shown yourself that you've done that, regardless of all of these things that you're trying to tell yourself is going to make it not possible. So it's that idea of where are those excuses coming up? What's that mind game that you have to play to actually then show yourself your capacity?
It's funny, I think about this all the time, where I ran in the month of March 5Ks every single day, which was like 155 Ks, and I'm not a runner. Well, I am now. I consider myself to be one now. But yeah. But you know, I'm a fit and active person, but I don't actively go for runs every week. It was like once every fortnight I'd smack a run in or put a run in or something like that. And it's so interesting because I remember just making a decision, a whole body decision, going, you will run every single day 5Ks. That's it. So it's like all the excuses, they had no room because I'd have made a commitment. I'd also added the pressure of putting it on social media of like, there is no excuse that will be like, no one's going to believe you if you go on social media and be like, oh, I didn't run today because of X. And the cause that I was doing it for was one of Jesse's friends had just lost his eyesight in an awful incident. Okay, you can run 5Ks. You are actually going to be okay. And I think that when it comes to excuses and things like that, the biggest mistake people, they give into them too easy and they genuinely believe them. Like this is genuinely an excuse. No, this is genuinely a reason as to why I can't do the thing, when really it is an excuse. And I remember my knees weren't coping, right? 5 days in, I had both knees strapped. I was texting my cousin, she's an EP, and I was like, help me, I have to go. She's like, I was waiting for you to message me. And anyways, I remember thinking to myself, oh my God, how am I going to do this? And I said, you've made it. And Jesse's like, just ride 5Ks. It's not about, and I was like, no, I said I was going to run 5Ks. I'm going to run 5Ks. I'm not riding. And I remember him saying to me then, okay, then your knees are going to catch up to you. And I remember thinking, oh no, this doesn't feel good. But I kept having in my head, they're just going to catch up, surely. By the end of it, my knees were completely fine. It was just like my technique was wrong. I had to learn how to run properly and all the different stuff. But if I had believed that, because my knees were giving me literal grief. I fell over once because it was like this shooting pain, and I fell and someone was watching and it was like, is this girl okay? And I remember just being to myself, they will catch up. Your knees will catch up. Your knees will catch up. And I've shared this with you before. The days that I didn't want to run, I PB'd. And I genuinely believe we have an illusion. We create an illusion that we're tired. But how does that make sense when some of the days you don't want to do something, when you do it, you perform the best? So was it that you were tired, or you just told yourself you were tired and then you gave that a little bit more thought than what it needed? And then you convince yourself, like you actually manifested it to be a reality. And for me, because I'd given myself the decision of like, well, whether you're tired or not, you have to do it. I wasn't tired, and to go even deeper, why are you tired? Did you scroll today a little bit too much? Have you been drinking your water? Well, you're going to be fine. You can run tired. You can run with sore knees. You can run with, a little less hydration. Just have a fucking hydrolyte and you'll survive. Like you will survive at the end of the day. And I think that, how I love the gym, being an ex-PT and kind of moving more into the business mentorship and wellness space. How you behave in the gym is such an incredible way for you to build incredible foundations to every other area of your life. And I used to say this as a personal trainer. I used to say, you can skip your reps, but where else are you skipping shit? And this right here, your reps, is such a good way for you to build confidence and build a new skill and to break a fucking bad habit and all these different things. And for me, that's why I love movement. That's why my retreats will forever stay very like boot camp focused, because if you're doing it in the gym, you're doing it everywhere else. I can guarantee it, and if you are lazy in the gym, where else? If you skip your reps, where else? If you scroll every 10 minutes, where else do you do that? You probably do it at work. You probably do it in the fucking car. You probably do it everywhere else,
Yeah, absolutely. I want to go back to something you already mentioned because I obviously was a part of the discipline era, and I loved this part of it that you spoke about. Superficial level of commitment. Talk to me about it.
It's an uncomfortable conversation to have, but when we think about if we just audited what we say we want and what we are currently doing in order to make that a reality, and if you procrastinate a lot, if you are unwilling to make any form of sacrifice, if you believe in your excuses, if you what are some other things that I wrote down? I didn't write it. Oh, if you avoid it becoming really hard, like if you avoid any sort of challenge, you have a superficial level of commitment. I think that in social media now, it's overly glamorized that everything should be easy, everything should flow, everything should, you shouldn't have to work for it.
Come with ease.
Yeah. Ask the universe and you shall receive. And something
Journal about it.
Yeah. I'm like, yeah, no, that was none of my experience. Becoming a millionaire before I was 25. Do you think that it come with ease? No. Oh my God, no. I shared this when I first went from face-to-face PT to wanting to build my online business. I fucking cried myself to sleep for months. Asked my partner. I was questioning every form of decision that I've ever made, and it was so hard and it was so uncomfortable, and I received so much resistance from people and all the different things, and it was hard, and I had to stay so committed, and to the point where I thought, am I delusional to believe that this could be a reality for me? Like, that's fucking commitment. When people are looking at you going, the amount of people that said this is a bad idea. You are so good at personal training. You're so good at this. Why would you do this? Why would you do that? Oh, should you? And I just knew in every fiber of my being that this is what I wanted to create. And I created it. So I do believe that, and something that I said in the discipline era is we've over-normalized the I get to movement of but you get to train and you get to have this and you get to have that. And I am all for that, but I don't see it like that anymore. I see it as you have to. You have to do this, dear, or you have to deal with the consequences of not doing it. And what is that? Low energy, no confidence, you feel like a fucking imposter, all this shit. So it's you have to do it or you have to deal with the consequences. Pick your have to, and that for me is what changed everything, because as soon as I stopped giving myself room to question shit, which I have this in business. You have to sell. You have staff to pay, bitch. You have bills that you don't get to. That whole I get to sell. No, you have to. You have to train. You have to. Your clients are watching. They energetically, we all know when someone's full of shit. Do we not? Okay, cool. Otherwise, you're going to be one of those people, Dia. Do you want that? No. Okay, you have to train. And I remember really when the switch flipped. When I flipped the switch. yeah. We're all picking up what I'm putting down. But like when I switched my mindset to, because when you give yourself room, I'm sorry, I just, when you give yourself too much leeway, you get away with a lot of shit. You do, and that's unfortunate. And this is something that I feel like with parents, they emulate this a lot, and it's so admirable. Especially, you know, my OBM, my business manager, she's a new mum, and my mum is the epitome of this. There's no I get to. I have to be your mum. I have to take you to X. I have to do this. I have to do that. And my mum fucking showed me this, because the reality was, my parents are 2 immigrants, and my dad worked away long term, and my mum was by herself working 2 jobs, night shift and day shift. It was like, I have to do what's required for you guys to have the life that I wanted you guys to have here in Australia. That's why we moved here, you know? And the way that she would drive me to soccer training, and then she would drive, 20 minutes for me, drive another 40 minutes to take my brother somewhere, drive back, pick me up, drive back, pick him up. And that was our normality. Every single weekend, it was drive to Sydney, drive me to Sydney. I have to do this. And my mum really emulates that. And I feel like a lot of parents do emulate that, where it's like, I have to. This is just who I am now. And what if we decided that to treat that mentality or that mindset to every other area of our life? I have to go for the run. I said I was going to fucking do something. And you would feel this now with the added pressure. You've got sponsorships on board. You've got people watching. I don't get to do shit anymore. I have to do this. And that's an incredible position to be in, and a very privileged position to be in. And for me, I stopped looking at things of like, I get to, because the reality is I don't want to fucking do half the shit that I do, but I do it because I know that's what builds self-respect. And I'm so fucking privileged to be in the position that I am in, so I'm going to fucking do it, because I know, and I know that we've had this conversation in private, I know, and I have family that don't have the opportunity that I have. They don't. And that's fact. That's full stop. Unfortunately, that's the reality of life. So you're going to sit here, Dia, and have all this fucking opportunity at your fingertips to create a life that you were given because your parents made a massive sacrifice, and what, you're going to fucking scroll all day? Absolutely fucking not. Absolutely not. You have to do this. You have to create something for yourself, because other people don't get this. They don't get this chance. And I'm so lucky. I'm so privileged. I fully acknowledge my privilege, and I'm going to do something with my privilege, and that's the mindset that I do have, where, especially when it comes to commitment, a lot of people ask me, how are you so committed? How do you just do it? And I'm like, there are so many factors that play into it, but also a huge thing is like, I have to do it. I don't have an option. I have staff that look at me and go, you're the leader. And there's a kid involved now. My OBM has a child now. What am I going to do? Not pay her and not put food on this kid's table because I was not feeling right? No, you're not feeling right because you've been a lazy bitch. You're scrolling. You're not eating right. You're not looking after yourself. Like, do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And that's the thing, when people need to take more responsibility for the fact that, like, if you're not feeling right, instead of constantly being like, well, I'll just honor it, maybe get very curious of being like, whoa, why? Why aren't I feeling right? What am I doing? No one else. What am I doing that's contributing to that? Not my mom, not my dad, not my brother, not my boss. Because even if it is those people and they can contribute, but you also you've created a dynamic that sucks the fucking living shit out of you. And I think for me, once I got so honest, and again, who you are behind the scenes matters, so honest with, why are you so tired? Babe, you're 20, you're 26, you're 25. Why do you need to honor your body every 5 seconds? What is happening, And I really got honest with what is contributing to me not feeling like I have the energy. And it was so many of my patterns and behaviors, the scrolling, the eating, the binge spending, all the different things. And it's like, once I stopped doing that, I now have this newfound energy that everyone thinks of like, how does she go all the time? It's like, I just stopped doing low frequency shit and I stopped treating myself like fucking shit. And all of a sudden I had all this energy and
like magic.
yeah. And I also look at people who, you know, it's so interesting. And I always reference like the people in my life. I look at, somebody asked me this question the other day of the people outside of the coaching industry, in your circle, what blind spot have they revealed to you lately? It was like a really random question, but I was like, oh, slay. And my sister-in-law, who I basically live with, she's a nurse. My best friend's a police officer. So, you know, and my brothers, my whole family's builders. The people in my life, and Jessie's mum, she works she's basically a first responder, I would say, in her own way. And Jessie works with support work as well. So I'm talking about, I hear stories on a daily basis of the most intense shit happening. The most intense shit. I'm talking about like the stuff Kiara's doing, the stuff my sister-in-law is doing, and it's so incredibly inspiring yet humbling because who am I not to be in the mood to create social media content because I'm afraid of some Tom, Dick, and Harry on social media. There's no way. And this is the thing in my body. I'm like, there is no way I would look my best friend in the eye who is a police officer and say, oh, I can't. It makes me feel physically ill because how could I do that? And I think when my client asked me that question, I said, it's not that they reveal blind spots to me, but they humble me in the most beautiful way every single day that I'm so privileged to be doing. And they love their jobs, might I add. Everyone around me loves their jobs. My sister-in-law is like, I feel safe in the hospital. Like that's how much she loves it. But, you know, the workload and the things that she has to deal with amazes me. So I think that she has to do that too. She has that same mentality of like, I have to do this. People need me. My best friend's the same. I have to do this. I meet people on their worst day of their life. So I think I'm surrounded by, and this is a power environment, so surround yourself with people who have that same mentality. They just fucking get shit done and they have that like, I have to do this mindset and you will adopt it.
Yeah, absolutely. It goes back to what a post I put up, I think it was 2 days ago or something. And I put up a screenshot of like my Whoop stats. And it was like 27% recovery. Like it was looking grim.
She's low.
Yeah. It was grim. And I spoke about how so many people and me in the past would have looked at that and gone, I don't think my body can handle a run today. And I spoke about how there is a difference between listening to your body and knowing your body. So this kind of leads into what the next conversation I wanted to have with you, because I know you and I love this conversation, but the conversation around
hustle culture.
She knows. In particular, the demonization of hustle culture and, you know, the idea that especially taking on this marathon on top of quote unquote everything that I'm already doing is the projection that I'm getting from a lot of people. And yeah, the conversation around what you were just saying, you know, all of the actions that you're taking behind the scenes, everything that you're doing behind the scenes, like that is a contributor to that projection, you know. To the people who are telling me I'm taking on too much, I'm doing too much, what do you have to say to that?
That's her biggest flex. You know what? I see it as this. This is what I see. In 3 years' time, Em, you're going to tell a story and you're going to inspire so many people. And what if, yeah, you are doing a lot, but what if that limitation was your biggest fucking superpower? Because, you know, A, you're just going to be expanding your capacity. B, there are people in the world that are doing much more than what we are and they're handling it just fine, might I add, you know, and we're not unique in this. And I listened to a podcast the other day with Jocko Willink and love him. And he was basically, the interviewee was asking him, how do you feel that he lost some of his best friends at war? And he was like, I'm not unique in this. Some people lost 20 people. I lost 5. And that's grim. And it's like, I feel sad because I lost my best friends, but I'm not unique in this. And I think one of the biggest things when it comes to this conversation is, one, we need to stop making ourselves feel so unique in things. Like right now, it's like I'm a student, I'm running a business, and I'm training for a marathon in London. Yeah, and probably so are 100 other people. And it's not that, like, it's incredible, but so are 100 other people. And I think that what we think is our biggest limitation will be our story one day. And that's like, I don't know whether as you were saying, I knew this question was coming. I'm like, it's that sort of like, I'm going to make this fucking part of my story. And one day, it's that this right now, the situation that I'm in right now is going to inspire so many people because I did it even though I was actually really short on time. And this is what I say to my clients sometimes when they are working full-time and they don't have a lot of hours. Well, yeah, so did I. I was working 12 hours days as a PT trying to build an online business. 12 hours with clients face-to-face. Okay, cool. Now that's my biggest flex. Now I say, like, you don't need that much time. You actually just need to be intentional. You need to be productive. You need to be this. You need to be that. And I think I watched this reel the other day and what did she write? She wrote, for those who, like, the hustling gave me everything that I have right now. And I thought it was so cool the way that she kind of shared it because I resonate with that. Hustling gave me everything that I have today. It gave me the business. It gave me the body. It gave me the partner. It gave me the success. It gave me the staff. It gave me the ability to run and move and be super strong and fit and active, And I think that hustle culture is demonized because it reveals a lot of people's inadequacies. And they can't hold that. They would rather make you wrong than look at how fucking lazy they are because it's easy. It's easy to say in a world right now, you're doing too much because when you hang, and this is the thing, when you hang around with people exactly like us, you're actually not doing too much. Everyone's like, oh yeah, you could probably leverage this and do this. And like they'd give you 20 more projects. Yeah. But when you hang around with people who are so threatened by people doing a lot, immediate hustle culture, you're doing too much, you're doing this because it's highlighting how little they are doing. And I think don't get me wrong, hustle culture, it can be bad and there is extremities to it, but we're not talking about extremities. We're talking about 2 young people fucking trying to get after it with their lives and make something for themselves so that in 20, 30 years, I'm fucking sitting on a beach in Mykonos living my best life, and homeschooling my kids and doing all the things. Like now I'll put in the grunt work so later I don't have to, and you're in a very similar position where you're putting in the work now. And can that just be fucking okay? Can we stop, like, honestly, guys, can we stop shaming people for wanting and being super hungry? And I get this all the time. It's like, you're addicted and it's all your ego and you're obsessive. And it's like, can we peel it back? My highest value is growth. Is it that I'm obsessive or am I actually living incongruent to my values? Not yours, mine. My value is growth. And like everyone says they value growth, they don't. Look at your actions and I'll tell you what you value. If you looked at my life, you would see that I value growth. So is it that I'm obsessive or doing too much or am I living in pure alignment right now? That's how I see it because, when I don't want to say not achieving, but working towards something, I feel a lack of purpose. What the fuck is wrong with that? What is actually wrong with that? I don't see the problem here, and like I said, I live and people that I'm around with are first responders. Are you going to look a fucking first responder in the eye and say, you work too much? No, you're going to look them in the eye and say, thank you so much for serving. Thank you so much. Like, that's it. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to say you do. And I think that, there's so many layers to demonizing hustle culture, but I think that we've pendulumed so far into, again, the self-love movement that a lot of people are having to deal with the consequence of that. And that's where so many self-care practices people do all these self-care things to make themselves feel good, when really if you just lived a life that you were fucking proud of, you wouldn't need 50-step fucking routine to feel good. You would just feel good, and people always ask me like, what's your routine and what's this and what's that and what do you do? I'm like, I just keep my fucking space clean and I train.
And eat some meat.
And I eat a lot of meat. And I breathe correctly through my nose, and that's it. I don't need the facade. Why? Because I'm not trying to counteract all the fucking shit that I'm doing. I'm proud of who I am. I'm proud of, the way that I train. I love when I train by myself. Like, I almost have this sick thing where it's like, I love training by myself because it's like, I have this vision. It's like, me and my best friend was saying it. We've been swapping playlists. I'm like, what are you listening to at the moment? I'm over my music. And she was showing me, she's like, it feels like I'm going to war every time I train. And I feel it too. It's like, I've got this vision and I'm like training towards it. Yesterday I had a big training day and it was like, that's all I was thinking about. But it's like, I love that. I love when I'm by myself and I think about my vision and I think about all these things and it fuels me. It gives me like this sick sense of purpose. And I will never, and I'm grateful that I have a mentor and have had mentors who they don't support the self-love, maxo relaxo movement too. I'll never forget I was working like a decent amount and I was feeling it. I was like feeling pretty tired and I got on the phone with my mentor and I'll never forget this because I fully remember how I was sitting and I remember thinking I'm just going to plug into her and maybe tell her that I've been working a lot and see what she has to say. And I didn't even say it, but I think she got on a tangent and she was like, fuck 20-hour weeks, do 30. If you have to do 40, do 50. Do you know how hard I worked? And I just I got roasted, but I didn't even ask a question. She just roasted me. And it was the best thing that, she pushed me. She expanded my capacity that I can do a lot and I'm not really fazed by it. And again, I've watched my parents do this. They work so hard, which I'm so grateful that they were able to mirror that to me. My brothers, my partner, the people around me, like this is normal. This is what we do. And it's like, yes, people want to demonize it as hustle culture, but when you start hanging around with people who this is their norm, you feel like you're like, oh, I've got so much more left in the tank. So you've got to be really careful with whose opinions you take on to make your own. Because with the people that I surround myself with, I'm doing they'd probably say to me, you could do more. But to someone else, you're doing so much.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember you saying to me that, people's projections are a reflection of their limitations, not yours. And that's something that I definitely hold on to a lot of the time when people say things to me. And I think the biggest thing as well is at the end of the day, if you understand how to regulate your nervous system,
it's not that hard.
Then you can hustle without it being burnout, without it being dysregulation.
Again, it comes back to the conversation of who are you outside of the hustle?
Mm-hmm. Because if you're hustling and then scrolling, or you're hustling and not sleeping properly, or hustling and not fucking breathing properly, you're sitting there on your laptop breathing through your mouth.
Yeah.
Absolutely, you're going to burn out.
Yeah. And it's like, again, I said this in the discipline era, who in the last week has sat in 10 minutes of silence? I think I saw all my clients were me. I was like, yeah, you better. But, even that, of course you can't sustain it. Mm-hmm. Why would you be able to with what you do outside of it? And again, it's who are you outside of it? And the other day, I remember doing this thing where I was feeling so good, and I remember I almost wanted to do an experiment on myself where I was feeling so good, and I was like, let me just pick up my phone and scroll and see how I feel after. And I was tired. All of a sudden I went from having the best morning to I can't wait to train to I can't wait to train. Yeah. And it's like, oh, whoa, what a difference that made. And I would love for everyone to do that experiment and, get the app Opal. And Opal, if you're listening, sponsor us.
Give her a sponsor.
Yeah. But honestly, block some shit. put a timer on, stick to your timers because it'll make the biggest difference. And like we said, I do believe that if people regulated their nervous system more, they'd be able to sustain it.
Mm-hmm.
If you breathe properly, put mouth tape. I remember I told one of my clients, I'm like, from now on, you wear mouth tape for a whole day. She's like, wow, my husband will love that.
Well, I have a post going up today about how sponsors need to come on board ASAP because I am solely running with mouth tape now. And running through Wollongong yesterday,
with mouth tape?
Sunday morning, peak, all eyes were on me. So I'm like, a sponsor would want to come on board soon because everyone's watching.
Yeah, like I encourage all my clients to create with mouth tape. I shared in the discipline area. I had a client come in, she had 2 o'clock crashes all the time. And she was like, what do I do? And, she was told just honor and work with what you got. And I was like, wrong. I was like, you wear mouth tape now and you learn to breathe.
And you only eat meat.
Yeah, and you only eat meat and you don't eat any sugar. You don't snack anymore. And her energy has completely changed. She was like, I don't feel, the 2 o'clock crash. I don't feel like I need to nap. And it's like, yeah, because you're breathing properly. And I think that's the thing where a lot of people don't actually realize the reason why I'm able, and this is what I said at the discipline and your regulation. So how dysregulated you are will show me how undisciplined you are, and how dysregulated you are will show me how much level of success that you have. And, at the retreat when the girls were doing that exercise and those who knew how to control their breath and calm their nervous system down and those who didn't have the emotional control was a very clear representation of, oh, okay, you guys live in a state of dysregulation and you guys don't. And I think, again, that's where the exercise comes into play with, when we did that exercise again and I was like, calm down and just breathe. Just breathe. You're going to be okay. You're not going to die. You will survive. Everyone crushed it. And I think that is a powerful representation of what the breath does.
Yeah, absolutely.
Love it.
We all know I'm a big fan of the breath.
Yeah.
I'm going to wrap this up. And my final question I'm very scared to ask you.
Oh, it's about you.
Yeah, it's about me. I cannot believe that I am opening up this opportunity for you to do publicly because I know what you're like privately. But as my mentor, I would love for you to reflect back to me about where I need to step the fuck up.
Okay, number one, the balls.
Number one.
Number one.
List.
There's a few. Nah. Number one, the courage to do this and this be shown in the podcast is actually incredible. So go you. I think that's worth acknowledging. The second thing is, if I was to give you advice on what you need to work on, as your mentor, I would say, I think I shared this with you at the retreat. You are an incredible leader, and I don't think that you know that yet. And at the retreat, you really stepped the fuck up when there was that leadership component to it where it was teamwork and stuff like that. So I would say you need to step into your inner leader more, way more. And I think you need to get a lot louder with what you believe, because I know there's some things that you believe that you maybe hold back from sharing because of all the things, social media, blah, 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 cancel culture. It is what it is. But I think that once you come to terms, that no one can cancel you unless you stop, and you're going to get cancelled at some point, you will fully be able to share what you believe. And I think until you do, you're always going to be in this like middle ground of I want this, I want that sort of energy, and it's kind of like, I think of it this way of, in order for me to be Dij, it's like I had to share what I believed. Otherwise, I was just like everyone else saying the same fucking shit, and I never really stood out. But until I said what I wanted to say, how I wanted to say it, when I wanted to say it, was then when I started to get people to turn their eyes and be like, who the fuck is this bitch, you know? And I think for you, you're very much in that season where you have to step up and say what you want to say, because I know what you want to say, and I know you maybe hide around or hide behind knowledge or hide behind like the science and the facts versus like just fucking saying it, you know? Like, yeah, I think that is definitely a blind spot for you, is you're not as honest as you maybe think you are online. Which is when we think about discipline, you can't, or anything. I'm reading a book at the moment, something, I don't know what it's called, so sorry. But it was like the 3 tools that you need to succeed. The first one's honesty. And you will never win unless you are honest. And I truly believe this. You know, when you think about the leaders in the online space or any space, doesn't really matter wherever it is, who is leading? The ones that are saying what's right and who are not afraid to say it, you know? So I think that. I also think for you need to get in rooms with people who are matching the amount that you're doing for you to not see it and almost pedestal yourself to be like, oh, I'm doing so much. Because like I said, once you really get in rooms with people who are matching your energy with the amount that you're doing and creating and making, it's such a humbling feeling. Because I know for me in my journey, I've had this a couple of stages, but I remember at the start of the year, my mentor, she has a mastermind, and I remember getting in her new mastermind. There was a lot of people who didn't re-sign and blah, 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 whatever. And there was a lot of new girls that I've never seen or never met. I didn't even know they existed. And they were telling me about their businesses and how much they were making. And I was like, I'm so flawed. I'm so humbled. And I remember thinking to myself, I didn't say anything. And it was like this feeling of like, oh, wow. Because I'm doing above average over here, I thought I was fucking killing it. I got in here and I was like, I'm making pissy money compared to you guys.
Pocket money.
Yeah. I'm like, this is your expenses. Yeah, it really did fucking change the game. And even like with me and boxing right now, I'm refining a big skill in boxing. It's, you know, to be able to move and defend, but also be able to throw correct punches. And there's a lot of things that you've got to be able to think about. And I'm not good at it. And there's girls in that gym that I was watching someone this morning. I was like, fuck, she's a fucking weapon, eh? And I gave myself the challenge of this month, every single day for 42 days. I don't know why I picked 42. It's just like where my calendar ended. You're going to do 10 rounds of shadow, 10 2-minute rounds. Because in this gym, yeah, you're good at boxing because no one around you boxes. But when you get in here, you're probably the shittest. You know, and that is a really humbling / important feeling for me to feel, because otherwise I'd think I'm top shit, you know? And I think that for you, not that you think you're top shit, but to bring it back into you, I think you think you're doing a lot, but once you step in the rooms with people who are doing a lot, you're like, oh, this is normal. This is not being praised at all.
Yeah.
And that's a humbling feeling when you've pedestaled yourself, which a lot of people do and they don't realize, because they get themselves, it's something I'm speaking about in my new program. It's the echo chamber effect. People think they pedestal others. They don't. They pedestal themselves. You think you're like, and we don't need to go into it, but you think you're doing and you're, you know, Hercules at some point, and then you get in rooms with people who are doing way more than you and you think, oh, wow, I really thought I was all that.
Yeah.
And I would say that for you, just so you can normalize it, so it's like not this big thing. Because if it's a big thing all the time, you're going to make it this big fucking thing versus like, oh, this is just what I do. Yeah. This is just who I am. It's the whole parenting thing, you know?
Like there's opportunity for like, oh, that's the glass ceiling. I don't need to push I'm already doing heaps.
Yes. And that's what happens when it's the echo chamber, when we surround ourselves and don't actively put ourselves in rooms with people who are doing much better than us in all different areas of life, whether it's business, whether it's fitness, whether it's a gym or, all these different things. It's important to audit. If you're the biggest fish in all your rooms or you're doing the most in all the rooms or whatever, there's a high chance that you benefit from that and your ego loves that. Versus for me, when I get in that boxing gym, I'm a nobody, compared to how good these girls are or how good the guys are. And, even in business in the mastermind, it's like it's just normal. Like we're all just making 100K cash months. Like this is what we do in this mastermind. So it's not actually that exciting. So wanting to scale to the 150, 200 mark a month, it's like, this is normal. Versus if I, to my friends and family, it's a lot of money and it is, but to other people who are in business, it's not. And that is such a weird thing, right? And I think for you, don't get comfortable with people praising you. And Acosta said this to me this morning because I said to him, I started yesterday with my 10 rounds of shadow. And he said, as soon as you get a little bit comfortable, stop looking in the mirror. Because you go from wanting to improve a skill to admiring how good you look. And I was like, oh, I see how that could have become a thing. Because yesterday I was like, oh yeah, I'm getting it. Turned, so I would stop looking at the mirror and I was like, I feel like Forrest Gump. I don't even know where my feet are, So I had to turn back. But he said as soon as you start to feel a little bit confident, make sure you don't look in the mirror.
I love that.
Yeah, and it's kind of like what happens. If you get too used to the praise, you pedestal yourself.
Yeah.
And you put a ceiling on yourself, which it's just really important. And my partner, he obviously runs really long distances and he has some role models in the space. And whilst what he's doing is fucking wild, to the people that he looks up to, it's normal. And he's so, it's that humble confidence that I really believe in, where can you know exactly who you are and can you be so confident in who you are because of what you do behind the scenes, but be so humble and have this really humble mentality of there's always more to grow. And I think that is what that nuanced conversation of you have to be humble, you have to know exactly who you are and be so confident, and you have to be able to be right in the middle is such a skill that I feel like you are on the path to really learning. Yeah. Because if you went on social media right now, there are so many people who are doing, incredible things with marathons and raising money and stuff like that. And it's normal.
Yeah.
That. Just be very careful you don't get slipped into pedestaling yourself, basically, thinking you're all that, which you are. See the nuance? You are, and it's fucking incredible what you're doing.
But don't let that be a limitation.
Oh, yeah.
Don't let that be something that stops me from doing more.
Yeah. Yeah, because in a few months' time, you'll be able to do more.
Yeah.
Because your capacity will have grown.
Yeah.
Even for me, I'm in a season where I'm like, okay, what's the next project? And that's exciting because it's if I get really comfortable here and get really used to the praise and really get used to how good this feels because I'm killing it, I'll shoot myself in the foot.
Yeah.
And I won't be able to make the impact that I want to make because I'll start pedestaling myself versus having this mentality of I'm quite literally just getting started.
Yeah.
Which is where you're at. It's this is just the beginning. How good's that?
Yeah, that's exciting.
That.
She's still going.
yeah, let me think. I think just fucking owning who you are and what you're doing because it's so incredible. And honestly, using what you're doing right now is the biggest case study and the biggest flex. Yeah. Because in a few years' time, in 6 months' time, when you pull this off, like imagine that feeling. You know, I think about that all the time. Like if I pull this off, imagine that, or imagine how you're going to feel, or whatever it is. And I think for you, people are watching, and let that be the biggest blessing, because a lot of people aren't in the position that you're in. And yeah, clock how cool that is. Yeah. And like you'll tell this story one day. Just be like, fuck yeah, I fucking did that, motherfuckers. Yeah.
A slay.
Slay.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for sitting here today. I couldn't, like I said to you, I just couldn't imagine anyone else sitting across from me for this first episode. And I would not be where I am. I would not be doing what I'm doing if it wasn't for you. So thank you so much.
Slay, this was my pleasure. I had so much fun. I could talk all day long, honestly. It's an issue. I'm working on it.
We could keep going. Thank you, Dij.
Thank you.